Have you ever watched someone you love slowly drift away? Not in distance, but in memory? Last spring, Robert Miller, a 72-year-old retired firefighter from Ohio, was driving home from his usual grocery trip. But this time, something was different. Halfway back, Robert pulled over, confused, unable to recognize the neighborhood he had lived in for decades. His hands shook as he called his daughter, barely able to explain where he was. At first, the family thought, maybe it's just stress. Maybe he's just tired. But over the following months, small cracks became big gates. The truth was heartbreaking. Robert was showing early signs of dementia. Here's the hard truth. Many families miss these early warning signs until it's too late. But if caught early, dementia's day. Today, we'll walk through 10 early signs of dementia you should never ignore so you can protect yourself and the ones you love. Because knowledge isn't just power, it's love, time, and sometimes it's a second chance. Wait, where did I put my wallet? We've all asked that question. Forgetting small things from time to time is simply part of being human. But what Robert experienced went far beyond harmless slips. One afternoon, his granddaughter Emily visited with a photo album they had looked through many times before. As she opened it, Robert smiled politely but asked, "Whose wedding is this?" Emily gently replied, "Grandpa, that's my wedding, just last summer." He stared for a moment, confusion washing over his face. That memory, once cherished, had vanished entirely. Regular forgetfulness is misplacing your keys and then finding them after retracing your steps. But dementia steals entire moments. It's forgetting you even attended the wedding, forgetting conversations that happened hours earlier. For Robert, these memory lapses began with small gaps, but soon expanded into major blind spots in his life. His family first brushed it off as simple aging. Still, memory loss that interferes with daily life is never just getting older. Early dementia often attacks short-term memory first, making recent events fade like footprints on the shore. As his memory faltered, other unsettling changes followed, ones many families tragically overlook. Let's move to the next early sign you must watch for. It's on that cold thing where we keep milk. That's how Robert started referring to his refrigerator. Simple words, once automatic, now slipped through his fingers like sand. His family often finished his sentences thinking they were helping, but they were masking a deeper issue. Finding the right words is something we all struggle with occasionally, a tip-of-the-tongue moment here and there. But with early dementia, this struggle becomes constant. Robert would often pause mid-sentence, frustrated, searching for basic words like phone, keys, or even the names of people he loved. Sometimes he'd substitute entirely wrong words, calling his watch a hand clock or his coffee a hot soup. As language skills falter, many begin withdrawing from conversations, fearing embarrassment or misunderstanding. Robert, who once loved storytelling around the dinner table, grew quiet. Lengthy family discussions became exhausting puzzles for him. This isn't forgetfulness. It's the brain's communication system breaking down piece by piece. And as words grew harder, so did managing daily tasks. Behind every lost word lies a growing difficulty in processing, planning, and problem-solving, leading us to the following warning sign you must not ignore. "Dad, why did you send the electric company 2 checks this month?" That was when Robert's daughter, Lisa, realized something was seriously wrong. Her father, once meticulous with finances, was now making mistakes on simple tasks he'd managed for decades. We all have days when balancing the checkbook feels like a chore, but for Robert, everyday tasks became confusing puzzles. Following recipes he once knew by heart became overwhelming. Even organizing his weekly medication, something he had done for years, turned into a stressful guessing game. The real issue isn't forgetfulness, it's decision-making. Dementia affects the brain's executive functions, the ability to plan, organize, and follow multi-step processes. Robert wasn't just forgetting payments, he couldn't mentally hold the steps needed to complete them. Many families confuse this stage with simple old age slowing down. But when familiar routines become confusing or simple decisions feel paralyzing, it's often an early warning of something more profound. And as problem-solving faltered, a new, heartbreaking pattern emerged. Repetition. The same questions, stories, and concerns are repeated repeatedly, not out of habit, but out of fading short-term memory. That leads us to the fourth sign that many loved ones initially mistakenly dismiss. "Lisa, when is Emily's birthday again?" Robert asked this question 3 times in one afternoon. At first, Lisa thought it was sweet. Maybe her father was just feeling extra sentimental about his granddaughter. But soon, the repetition became impossible to ignore. The same questions, the same stories, day after day. We all repeat ourselves occasionally, especially when we're excited or distracted. But with early dementia, repetition isn't about enthusiasm, but loss. The brain struggles to store new information. So to Robert, each time he asked felt like the first time. He honestly couldn't recall asking it before. Here's the painful reality. For family members, this stage often brings frustration. It's easy to feel irritated, even impatient. But behind the repetition is a silent cry, the brain desperately trying to fill in the gaps that memory can no longer hold. Robert's favorite fishing story, one he shared countless times before, surfaced almost daily. His family would smile, listen, and gently guide him. But inside, they feared what was coming. And as these repetitions grew, so did Robert's struggle to handle changes in his daily life. Routine, once comforting, became a fragile lifeline. Any disruption could leave him confused, anxious, and overwhelmed, leading us to the following warning signs to observe. "But I always see Dr. Wilson on Tuesdays. Why is it Thursday now?" Robert's voice trembled as his daughter gently explained that the doctor had rescheduled. What seemed like a slight change in routine left him anxious, confused, and deeply unsettled. As dementia progresses, even the slightest disruption can feel like being dropped into unfamiliar territory. New schedules, altered routines, or unexpected events, things most of us adjust to quickly, can trigger fear and panic. The brain, already struggling to process information, clings tightly to routine as a security source. For Robert, knowing that Mondays were grocery days and Thursdays were doctor days gave him a fragile sense of control. When that predictability was broken, his anxiety surged. Not because he was being difficult, but because his brain couldn't recalibrate fast enough. Family members often mistake this reaction for stubbornness or resistance. They say, "Dad just doesn't like change." But his world was already shifting daily, and any added change felt overwhelming. And as his ability to adapt faded, so did his awareness of time and place. Moments like waking up unsure of where or even when he was would soon become frighteningly familiar, leading us to the next critical sign every family should recognize. Am I late for work? It was 3 a.m. when Robert shook his wife awake, panicked. He hadn't worked at the fire station in over a decade. But at that moment, his mind had pulled him back to a place and time that was long gone. Losing track of time occasionally happens to everyone. Forgetting which day of the week it is, or being surprised how fast the month flew by. But for those like Robert, dementia distorts not just time but reality itself. The brain's internal clock, the hippocampus, begins to fail. Past and present blur. Morning and night become interchangeable. Robert would sometimes dress for work in the middle of the night or forget whether he'd eaten lunch moments after finishing it. Physical disorientation followed. On one occasion, Robert wandered into a neighbor's yard, convinced it was his childhood home. Thankfully, his daughter found him before anything dangerous happened. Why this matters? Disorientation with time and place isn't simply confusion, it's a significant safety concern. Wandering, getting lost, or feeling trapped in unfamiliar surroundings can lead to injuries, accidents, or even life-threatening situations. And as Robert's sense of time unraveled, so did his ability to focus on even the simplest tasks, leading to the following warning sign that families often overlook in the early stages. "Dad, are you listening?" Lisa gently touched Robert's hand. They had been watching his favorite fishing documentary, but his eyes were glazed, distant. Just a few months earlier, he would have eagerly commented on every detail. Now, even a 15-minute program felt overwhelming. We all lose focus sometimes, distracted by phones, worries, or a wandering mind. But for someone in the early stages of dementia, attention doesn't just drift, it fades. The brain's ability to filter distractions and hold focus weakens. Even simple tasks, reading a newspaper, listening to a story, or following instructions, become mentally exhausting. For Robert, conversations turned into puzzles. By the time one person finished a sentence, he struggled to remember how it began. following multi-step directions like preparing a simple sandwich confused and frustrated him. As concentration slipped, Robert grew quieter. Embarrassed by his confusion, he slowly withdrew, not because he didn't care, but because staying engaged became too difficult. And as his attention weakened, so did his desire to participate in activities he once loved. The hobbies, the gatherings, the little moments that once brought joy, they all began to feel like distant memories. That's where the next heartbreaking sign starts to show itself. "Dad, aren't you joining the guys for poker tonight?" Lisa asked with a hopeful smile. But Robert just shook his head, looking down. "Maybe next time, sweetheart. I'm feeling a little tired." At first, it seemed harmless. Everyone skips a social event occasionally. But soon, "maybe next time" became "not today," and eventually, "I don't feel up to it anymore." This withdrawal isn't simply about being tired or losing interest. It's often fear. Fear of forgetting names, losing track of conversations, or feeling embarrassed in front of friends. For Robert, poker nights, once the highlight of his week for over 15 years, became anxiety-inducing. The rules, the jokes, and even the faces of old friends started to blur. As dementia takes hold, the effort required to socialize can feel overwhelming. People like Robert retreat into the safety of solitude, not because they want to, but because isolation feels easier than the pain of struggling publicly. The heartbreaking cycle. The less they engage, the faster cognitive decline can accelerate. Social interaction fuels the brain. When it fades, so does mental sharpness. As Robert withdrew, his mood and personality began to shift as well, bringing on another sign many families struggle to recognize before it's too late. "Dad, why are you so upset?" Lisa whispered after Robert snapped at the waiter for bringing him the wrong drink, something he would have laughed off just months earlier. This wasn't the father she knew. Robert had always been patient, gentle, and full of humor, but lately, minor inconveniences sparked anger. At times, he grew suspicious, convinced that people were hiding things from him or trying to confuse him on purpose. As dementia progresses, changes aren't just in memory, they reach deep into personality. The brain regions responsible for regulating emotions, like the frontal lobe and amygdala, begin to falter, causing mood swings, anxiety, irritability, and even paranoia. Robert sometimes grew restless in the evenings, pacing the house. He worried that something was wrong, though he couldn't explain what. Simple frustrations led to outbursts, and sadness would follow quickly after. For families, this stage is particularly painful. It's hard to watch someone you love become someone different. Many chalk it up to just getting grumpy with age. Still, these emotional shifts are often early markers of cognitive decline. And while Robert's emotions became more complicated to manage, his physical world also began to distort, bringing us to one of the most dangerous and overlooked early signs of dementia. "Careful, Dad, you almost missed the step." Lisa rushed forward as Robert stumbled on the front porch, misjudging the distance to the ground. It wasn't the first time. Lately, Robert had begun bumping into furniture, struggling to park the car straight, or even pouring coffee outside the cup. While many people associate dementia only with memory loss, few realize how deeply it can affect the brain's ability to process space, depth, and distance. For Robert, the familiar layout of his home started feeling unfamiliar. Doorways seemed narrower. Chairs appeared closer than they were. Navigating stairs became increasingly frightening. As dementia affects the brain's occipital and parietal lobes, visual-spatial skills, the ones we rely on every day to judge where objects are in space, begin to fail. This isn't clumsiness or bad eyesight, it's the brain misinterpreting visual signals. Robert, who once loved driving country roads with ease, eventually surrendered his car keys after narrowly avoiding a minor accident. A heartbreaking but necessary decision. And here's the real danger. Falls, car accidents, and household injuries become serious threats as these distortions worsen. Sadly, many families don't connect these accidents to early dementia until far too late. But while these 10 signs are sobering, there's still hope if we recognize them early. Let's talk about what you can do if you notice these changes in someone you love. But what can we do now? That was Lisa's question when Robert's symptoms became undeniable. First and foremost, don't panic. Recognizing these signs early is not the end. It's the beginning of a chance to help. The very first step is to consult a healthcare professional. Many conditions, like vitamin deficiencies, thyroid issues, or medication side effects, can mimic dementia and are treatable. Even if dementia is diagnosed, catching it early opens doors to medications, therapies, and lifestyle adjustments that can slow progression and preserve quality of life. You are not alone in this journey. Support groups, counselors, and medical teams can offer guidance and comfort. And now, before we close, let me share why recognizing these signs early may change one life and save years of precious memories for entire families. If only we had known sooner. Lisa often whispered those words, wishing they had seen the signs earlier. But you now hold the knowledge that many never receive in time. Early awareness isn't just medical, it's a gift of time. More birthdays, family dinners, and shared laughter. If you've recognized any of these signs in yourself or a loved one, please don't wait. Speak with a doctor. Start the conversation. Even small steps today can make a world of difference tomorrow. If this video helped you, please comment with one to let us know. Your story might inspire someone else who's quietly searching for answers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, because sometimes one video can save years of precious memories for another family.